I was half asleep when my phone lit up at 2 a.m., and those 9 words shattered everything I thought I knew about my family. I whispered to myself, rereading it, with my heart in my throat. Grab your sister and run. Don't trust your mother. I didn't think. I moved. Hoodie, sneakers, backpack instinct took over. Ivy was still sleeping when I covered her mouth and told her we had to leave. So I did. But what waited outside our window wasn't fear. It was proof that my father wasn't the only one awake. My name is Lyra, and if you had asked me yesterday whether my family was normal, I would have said yes without even thinking. We were the kind of quiet suburban household people drive past without remembering white porch lights, trimmed hedges, a TV humming behind closed curtains. Nothing dramatic, nothing that screamed danger. My dad, Adrian, works as a consultant. He travels to Seattle so often that his suitcase basically lives in the hallway closet. He's steady, predictable, the kind of man who double-checks the locks every night and never texts after 10, unless it's to say he landed safely. I grew up trusting the calm tone of his voice more than anything. My mom, Marissa, is the opposite, warm on the surface, quick to charm neighbors always with a glass of wine in hand and some real estate story to brag about. People loved her. I used to love her too before the small cracks started showing, before I noticed that her phone was always face down. Her laptop always locked her smile a little too tight when Dad asked harmless questions. Then there's Ivy, my 12-year-old sister. Sweet, book-obsessed, wearing glasses too big for her small face. She's the kind of kid who still leaves notes on my pillow and believes adults always tell the truth. She's my person, the one I've been protecting since the minute she was born. Looking back, the signs were there. The nights Mom disappeared for work dinners that didn't match her stories. The arguments behind closed doors I pretended not to hear. The way Dad's shoulders started holding tension he couldn't hide even when he tried to smile at us over breakfast. But at 17, you tell yourself families go through phases. You tell yourself you're imagining things. You tell yourself your mother, your own mother, would never be the kind of person you'd need to run from. The evening before everything collapsed, nothing felt unusual. Mom was downstairs watching some crime documentary, glass clinking every time she shifted on the couch. Ivy had fallen asleep before finishing her homework, her hair spilling across the pillow in a messy wave. I remember smoothing it back, thinking about my chemistry test the next morning, thinking about nothing urgent. Nothing dangerous. And then 2 a.m. A buzz, a light, a message that didn't belong in my life. I didn't know it then, but the moment I read Dad's warning, the version of our family I'd been carrying around in my head died instantly. The house I'd always felt safe in suddenly felt like a stage set with shadows hiding behind every familiar object. Even the silence felt different, thicker, like it was trying to warn me, too. When I crept out of my room, the floorboards moaned under my feet. Mom's glass clinked again downstairs. Ivy breathed softly behind her door. My heart pressed against my ribs like it was trying to break out. And in that fragile, trembling moment, one question swallowed every other thought in my mind. If Dad was telling the truth, what exactly was I still standing in the middle of? I must have read Dad's message 10 times, each word sinking heavier than the last. My father is not dramatic. He's not reckless. If he tells you to run, you run. But there was one line I couldn't swallow no matter how hard I tried. Don't trust your mother. Those 4 words hit harder than the command to flee, harder than the fear creeping up my spine. I stood there in the dark hallway, gripping my phone so tight my fingers hurt. Downstairs, I heard the TV change scenes, laughter from the crime show echoing faintly against the walls. Mom was awake. Mom was relaxed. Mom was normal, at least normal in the way she wanted us to see. I pressed my ear to Ivy's door. She was still asleep, breathing softly, unaware that everything we knew had just been cut open. I pushed the door gently, stepping inside with a care I'd never needed before. The room smelled like lavender lotion and the faint pages of her open book. I leaned over her, whispering her name. No reaction. Ivy sleeps like a stone. I touched her shoulder. Still nothing. Finally, I covered her mouth with my hand and shook her firmly. Her eyes shot open, wild with panic, until she saw it was me. Don't talk, I whispered. Dad texted, "We have to go." She blinked up at me, confused glasses still on the nightstand. "What?" "Why, I'll explain later. Right now, move." I grabbed the hoodie hanging on her chair and helped her pull it on over her pajamas. Her hands were shaking, but she didn't argue. Ivy trusts me. The way other kids trust fire alarms when I go off, she moves. I stuffed a few things into her backpack water bottle, a book her inhaler, then slung it over my shoulder along with my own. Outside her window, the backyard was a dark stretch of shadow. I'd sneaked out of this window a handful of times to meet friends, but tonight felt nothing like those secret adventures. Tonight felt like stepping off the edge of something I couldn't see the bottom of. I pushed the screen out quietly. It landed in the mulch with a soft, dead thud. Ivy hesitated at the sill, her eyes wide. "Is Mom in trouble?" she whispered. The question cut straight through me. "I don't know," I said, "but Dad says we have to go." As I helped her lower herself toward the drop, a floorboard creaked behind us. A heavy one. Not the kind that squeaks under your own shifting weight, the kind that reacts when someone is moving toward you. I froze. Ivy froze. Then another creak. Closer. My throat tightened as I realized Mom wasn't on the couch anymore. She wasn't laughing at some crime show. She was moving slow and deliberate up the stairs. I didn't wait to see her face. I dropped into the mulch, caught Ivy when she fell after me, grabbed her hand, and ran into the night before the footsteps reached the top of the stairs. We didn't stop running until the cold air stung our faces and the Hale house shrank behind us, just another quiet silhouette in a neighborhood that had no idea a family was cracking open inside it. Ivy clung to my hand, her breath sharp and uneven. The street was empty, only the soft buzz of a street lamp and the rustle of dry leaves moving across the asphalt. It was almost peaceful, if not for the dread pressing against my ribs. "We need somewhere with lights," I whispered. "Somewhere public." The 24-hour convenience store sat 3 blocks away, glowing faintly like a tired lighthouse. We walked fast, shoulders hunched, pulse still pounding from the near sound of Mom's steps behind the door. A part of me still expected her to appear at the end of the street, smiling like nothing was wrong. Inside the store, the fluorescent lighting was harsh and too bright. Ivy squinted behind her glasses. I kept us in the back corner near the refrigerators, away from the clerk behind the bulletproof window, who barely glanced at us. My phone buzzed, then buzzed again. Then again, 5-6 messages in a row. I didn't want to look, but I had to. "Where are you, girls? I heard something upstairs. Why did you leave the house? Answer me now. This isn't funny." The calm tone from the first texts shifted quickly into something sharp. Ivy read over my shoulder, her face draining of color. "She sounds mad," she whispered. Mad wasn't the right word. She sounded exposed, like someone whose plan was unraveling faster than she could control. My phone rang. Mom's name lit up the screen. I didn't want to answer, but not answering felt even more dangerous. I tapped it and put it on speaker so Ivy could hear every word. "Lyra, honey." Her voice trembled convincingly, the kind of tremble that would fool any adult, much less a scared child. "Where are you?" "Why would you take your sister out in the middle of the night? You're scaring me." Her tone was soft, too soft, a softness with teeth. "Dad texted us," I said, keeping my voice steady. "He told us to leave the house. He said not to trust you." Silence. A thick, calculated silence. Then she let out a small laugh, brittle, almost pitying. "Oh, sweetheart, your dad is not well. He's been paranoid for weeks. He's imagining things, telling the therapist wild stories. I didn't want to tell you girls, but he's not thinking clearly." Ivy looked at me uneasy. "But Dad? Dad, who remembered every school event, every grocery item, every lock on the house. No." "Let me talk to him," I said. "When he tells us he's okay, we'll come home." Her tone cracked. The softness evaporated. "Tell me where you are right now." It wasn't a request. It was a command. My chest tightened. That was the moment every piece of doubt fell away. Dad wasn't lying. He wasn't delusional. I ended the call, powered the phone off. Ivy did the same without me asking. And in that tiny convenience store corner with my heart pounding and my hands shaking, I felt something shift inside me, a line I couldn't uncross. I wasn't just running anymore. I was choosing a side. The store's heater rattled above us, blowing warm, stale air that did nothing to steady my shaking hands. Ivy leaned into me, her small shoulder pressed against mine, both of us pretending we weren't watching every shadow outside the window. When my phone buzzed again, despite being turned off, I nearly dropped it. But it wasn't Mom. It wasn't Dad. It was an unknown number, and the message was only one sentence. "This is Special Agent Rowan Blake. Your father asked me to contact you if anything happened to him." I stared at the letters until they stopped swimming. Ivy clutched my sleeve. "Lyra, is that real? I didn't know. I didn't know anything, except I had to act like I did." There was a payphone outside near the vending machine. I grabbed Ivy's hand and guided her toward the door, head low, eyes scanning the parking lot. The night air slapped my face when we stepped outside, but it grounded me. I dialed the number with stiff fingers. The call picked up on the second ring. "This is Agent Blake." "This is Lyra," I said. "My dad sent you." His voice changed instantly, tightening with urgency. "Where are you? Are you safe?" "Your father's last message to us was that you were in danger." I felt my knees buckle a little. Ivy wrapped her arms around my waist to steady herself and me. "What's happening?" I asked. "What danger?" He exhaled slowly, as if choosing every word. "Your father has been cooperating with us for several months. He uncovered a financial scheme involving your mother's real estate work. Significant money laundering, fraud, people very high up the chain. He was helping us gather evidence." I felt the ground tilt. My mom, she is involved, yes. And tonight the people she works with discovered your father had been passing documents to our office. "His emergency message to you?" It was sent moments before he was attacked at his hotel. Attacked. The word carved right through me. "Is he alive?" "Yes," Blake said firmly. "He got away, but he was injured. He's in protective custody. He asked for you and your sister first thing." I closed my eyes, letting the relief wash over me. Ivy started crying silently, burying her face in my hoodie. "We need to get you to us," Blake continued. "Right now, agents are on the way. Stay somewhere visible, well lit. Do not go home. Do not contact your mother." A cold ripple ran through me at his last sentence. I didn't need convincing. A taxi company had a small booth across the strip mall. I paid cash up front, my hands trembling, and the driver waved us into the back seat of his worn-down sedan. "Where to?" he asked. I gave him an address 2 blocks from the meeting point Blake provided. I wasn't telling anyone exactly where we were going, not even a stranger who seemed harmless. We pulled out of the lot. Ivy leaned her head against my shoulder. My heart was still pounding, but for one fragile moment I let myself breathe. Then headlights exploded behind us. Bright, fast, too close. The driver swore, adjusting his mirror. "What the hell?" But I already knew the shape of the vehicle. The silver SUV. Mom's SUV. "She found us," I whispered. The taxi jerked as the SUV rammed us from behind. Ivy screamed. I grabbed her, pulling her down against the seat. "Drive!" I shouted. "Please, just drive." "She's crazy!" the driver yelled, flooring the gas. The sedan sputtered like it wasn't built for emergencies, but it lurched forward anyway. The SUV stayed glued to our bumper. Another hit, harder this time. Metal shrieked. Glass rattled. My phone flashed a text, even though it had been off minutes before. I didn't read it. I didn't have to. I knew who it was. A third slam sent us skidding. The driver fought the wheel, teeth clenched. "Lady, she's gonna kill us. She's not trying to talk to us," I said. My voice was hollow. "She's trying to stop us." The SUV swerved to the left and leveled with us, Mom's silhouette visible behind the wheel. Her face, normally so composed, was twisted frantic. Her lips moved as she yelled something we couldn't hear. She jerked the wheel toward us. The taxi spun, tires shrieking, world blurring into dark lines and streetlights. We hit the grassy ditch with a bone-crushing jolt. The airbags exploded, slamming into me. The driver's head hit the window. Ivy cried out, folded against my side. "Move!" I gasped. "We have to move." The passenger door jammed, so I kicked it over and over until metal bent and it popped open. I shoved Ivy out first, then crawled after her. Mom's SUV screeched to a stop at the top of the ditch. Her door flung open. She stumbled down the slope toward us. "Girls," she cried. "Stop running, your father is lying, the FBI is lying. You don't understand." Her voice was wild, too wild for someone innocent, too wild for someone who had nothing to hide. I grabbed Ivy and ran toward the drainage culvert under the road. Mud splashed up our legs as we crawled inside. The metal tunnel was cold, echoing every terrified breath. Behind us, Mom's footsteps pounded closer. "Lyra," she screamed, voice cracking. "I am your mother." But the truth was finally louder, and it was the only thing I trusted. We crawled until the tunnel opened on the other side of the road. Sirens wailed in the distance, closer, closer. Ivy and I pushed through the tall grass until flashing red and blue lights cut through the dark. Police cars screeched to a stop. Officers leapt out, weapons drawn, assessing us, the crashed taxi across the road, the empty SUV. One officer rushed over his flashlight, blinding. "Hands where we can see them. Are you hurt?" "We called 911, I said through ragged breaths. "She tried to run us off the road." "Our mother, she's dangerous." Everything happened fast. Radio calls rushed questions, paramedics checking Ivy's pulse. Then black SUVs arrived. The doors opened. Agent Rowan Blake stepped out. He walked straight to us. Lyra Ivy. His voice was calm, but his eyes told me he knew exactly how close we came to disappearing. He draped emergency blankets around our shoulders, his expression softening for the first time. "You're safe now, both of you." A second SUV door opened, and my father stepped out. He moved slowly, one arm in a sling, bruises shadowing the side of his face. But he was alive. Alive. Ivy bolted into his chest, sobbing. Dad wrapped his good arm around her, pulling me in with the other. For a moment, the three of us stood there in the beam of police lights, shaking broken, but together. "I'm so sorry," he whispered into my hair. "I never wanted you to be part of this. I should have told you sooner. I thought I could protect you without dragging you into the danger. But you did protect us," I said. My voice trembled but didn't break. "You sent the message." His eyes filled with a grief deeper than anything I'd seen. That was the longest second of my life, typing that and praying you would see it. Agent Blake stepped closer. "Your mother fled the scene," he said quietly, "but we've alerted every patrol in the area. She won't get far." Dad exhaled heavy. She already went too far, and standing there cold, exhausted, covered in mud and fear, I realized something else. Those 12 words at 2 a.m. hadn't ruined my life. They had saved it. 8 months later, I sat in the back row of a courtroom, the air heavy with that sterile blend of paper coffee and cold ventilation. Ivy sat beside me, her feet not quite touching the floor, fingers twisting the edge of her sweater. Dad was in the witness chair, answering questions with a steadiness he had earned the hard way. The bruises were long gone, but the weight in his eyes wasn't. Marissa, our mother, sat across the room at the defense table, hands folded like she was posing for a portrait. No tears, no apology, no flicker of recognition when she glanced in our direction. She might as well have been a stranger wearing someone else's memories. The evidence was overwhelming: the payments, the forged documents, the financial trails she thought she'd hidden. Add the attempted assault on the highway, and the verdict was inevitable. Over 20 years. No chance of early release. When the judge read the sentence, Ivy exhaled a breath she'd been holding since that night in the ditch. Dad's hand found mine. Later, we moved to another state, new routine, new school, new locks, new lives. Not perfect, not painless, but finally safe. Some nights, I still hear the echo of that text, those 12 words that tore my world apart and stitched it back together in a different shape. I used to think family meant safety, but now I know it means choosing the people who choose you back. Dad did, Ivy did, and I did too when I ran. If my story reminds you of something you've lived through, share it in the comments so others know they're not alone. And subscribe, there's more to tell.